I am well aware there is a cutoff time to say this, but Happy New Year, everyone. We're rolling into January, getting back into the groove of making some videos here, joining you on the Soccer OG. I'm excited about this one because it's very comprehensive. It's about the year that we are in, 2024. And I am telling you, and I'm not going to throw a qualifier in there or say a word like arguably, but 2024 is going to be the biggest year in international football. You have count them, six major international competitions, six on the men's side. You have one on the women's side too, that will shape this year unlike any other. We haven't really had a year like this prior, and I don't know if we're going to have one in the future, although in the ever-expanding calendar of world football, never say never. But we're in this situation because there was a lot of moving parts, and I'll get into all of that here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. Have a real interesting one there with Tom Bogert as we break down the MLS marketplace. Really interesting. We'll have a new pod coming out this week, a little Asian Cup specific. So be on the lookout for that, for our great audience of this YouTube channel, as well as the OG podcast in India and China. Yes, we have listeners there. Thanks for checking out. Like and subscribe us here. So let us get into 2024, the biggest year in world football. And there you see it. There you see. Six major competitions. I have to hold my breath a little bit because I know, and I always get after the Olympics here a fair bit because it's not really a great soccer tournament, but it's on there in the Parisian games that we're going to have this summer. But there you have it. Asian Cup, AFCON, African Cup of Nations. You have the OFC Nations Cup in Oceania, the Olympics, the Copa America, and the Euros. And those will all wrap up by the end of the summer. And everyone's going to be involved, obviously. You have each confederation, not everyone, but you do have one where they have been consolidated in the Americas, putting their best foot forward. So, with the six competitions, I'm sorry, it's the Olympics. But we'll get to the Olympics here in a moment. But we're going to include them on this list that makes it feel even bigger. The African Cup of Nations was supposed to take place in 2023, moved because of the rainy season in the Ivory Coast. So it is now here in January and February of 2024. The Asian Cup also was supposed to be in 2023 as Qatar replaced China as the host, and that postponed it because in Qatar, the host nation, just like we saw in the World Cup, it is too hot to have had it when they wanted to, so they move it here to a better temperature in the Middle East to accommodate that. And it's good, it's weather related. A lot of moving hosts. I mean, even the AFCON was supposed to be in different countries. They had like this little musical chairs of hosts, and they finally fell on the Ivory Coast. So those two competitions were supposed to take place in 2023. Now they get stuffed into 2024. The consolidated Copa America, because CONCACAF and the Gold Cup had their competition, their championship in 2023, and it will happen in 2025. So if the Copa America didn't bring in all 16 teams, it would have been a traditional Copa America with 10 teams, and CONCACAF would have sat out 2024. Instead, everyone's involved. Asia, Oceania, Africa, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, UEFA. All six major confederations involved in this busy calendar. We're going to go through each tournament, and I'm going to add some extra layers as to why this could be even bigger, because we know the Euros. The Euros is almost like a World Cup, but all these other competitions are improving, and I'll give you some evidence as to why. Let's start in chronological order. The first one to begin was the Asian Cup, 24 teams being played in Qatar. So that's already big news because you're going to use all the resources and the stadiums that were used at the World Cup, brand new, great facilities, to host this competition, so it will feel first class. Games have been going on. I've watched it. They have been pretty well attended, and the production and everything looks very, very nice. There's a lot of money in that area, obviously, in the Middle East, in Japan, in Korea. Australia is a burgeoning marketplace. There is some good foundation stones to help really push forward the game in that part of the world. So Qatar hosting is a big part of it. And we go back to the World Cup a little bit as well. Qatar is also the reigning champs in 2019. But in the last World Cup in Qatar, 6 Asian teams made the tournament. That is the second highest total. Only UEFA had more teams. But that was more than South America. That was more than CONCACAF. That was more than Africa. I mean, CONCACAF and CONMEBOL had 4 teams each. Asia had 6, and 4 of those teams made the round of 16s. Japan, Korea, not 4 of them. Japan, Korea, Australia, what am I forgetting? They made it, 3 teams made the round of 16. Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. Iran was hotly contested, and Qatar just had a bad tournament. But everyone else was pretty good in that World Cup. Setting this up to a big tournament where you have a top-heavy grouping, right? Japan's going to be the favorite. Qatar is going to be in there as the reigning champs and the host. Saudi Arabia, you can't look away. Iran is stacked. I mean, Iran really could have been in the round of 16, narrowly losing to the United States, and I would stand by that was a really good win for Greg Berhalter in the U.S., beating that Iranian team because they're very good. Iran will be a threat here. Australia would be a threat. Australia pushed Argentina in the round of 16. I swear, if that game lasted 30 minutes, Australia would have tied it. And who knows what would have happened. Rewrote the history books. So you have all that, and then as an added bonus, you have these burgeoning countries that we're getting very excited about. India, who played, didn't look very good against Australia, and China, who also played, and we'll see if they can improve their quality. You would imagine with the size and scope of these countries, they will get better. We know India has been taken over by football and is going crazy for the sport. So all of that involved. You have a feel-good story with the Palestine team in there. They scored a goal in a loss to Iran in their opening game. So a lot of meat on the bone. This is a very entertaining tournament. I've been tuning in, and I will continue to do that. My goal is to watch 100 games from all these competitions. So I'm off and running. I've seen like 4 or 5 between that and the African Cup of Nations, which started January 13th, will go to February 11th in the Ivory Coast. Already some surprises in that 24-team tournament. Cape Verde defeated Ghana. Mozambique had Egypt beaten, giving up a penalty late. And that's what's compelling about Africa. I have more faith in Asia closing the gap on the powerhouse teams. But there's no easy games. I don't think you're going to see a lot of blowouts in AFCON from the top to the bottom with Cape Verde, Mozambique, Equatorial Guinea. All are tough outs. Equatorial Guinea tied Nigeria. There's very few easy games in this. And that's a testament to the consistency on the African continent. What changes this one for me more than any other AFCON is we're coming off a World Cup. Well, Africa didn't do that numbers-wise. They got 2 teams in the round of 16. But Morocco won their group, a very difficult group, and they made it all the way to the semifinals. And it was a weird game against France in the semifinals. A couple bounces go their way. They could have made a final. I've rewatched that game, and there was some moments where you're like, Morocco had France. I mean, France scored early, but France were worried. There was no accident that Morocco made a semifinal. They are stacked with talent, and they'll be one of the favorites here. And what they did in the World Cup was that breakthrough moment we waited for Africa. We waited for that African story. Can they make a quarterfinal like Cameroon did, but could they make a semi or better? They finally did. And maybe the first one was the hardest, and after that, it starts rolling in. You have high-ranked teams in FIFA. Morocco's 13th, Senegal 20th. They were the other team to make the round of 16, losing to England. Tunisia's 28th. They almost popped through there, finishing 3rd in their group behind Australia in the World Cup. Algeria's 30th, Egypt's 33rd, so 5 teams in the top 33. And then you have Nigeria, Cameroon, Ivory Coast. A lot of quality. But you want to see those top tier teams. And maybe Morocco can really start showing that they are the bull of the woods in Africa. But this is a great AFCON as well. And it doesn't have the state-of-the-art venues like we have in Asian Cup, but it should be very good. I don't know how much of the OFC Nations Cup I'm going to watch. We don't know the field. It will be taking place in June in Vanuatu. It's a very small region, hasn't made the World Cup, propped up by New Zealand. Remember, Australia was here and they moved. I'm sure New Zealand would love to move to the Asian Federation as well, but in the meantime, they're stuck in a region where there's just not much money or resources or ambition at this point. We had Next Goal Wins about American Samoa, so there's something positive coming out of that region. The Thomas Rongan story. Very nice movie. Get a chance to go see it, definitely do that. Only 8 teams here. They didn't have a tournament in 2020, canceled because of COVID. New Zealand are the reigning champs going back to 2016. So look, it's been 8 years since we've had the OFC Nations Cup. Back in 2016, New Zealand beat Papua New Guinea, who were the hosts. So that should be interesting. And Oceania will definitely get a team in the 2026 World Cup. So that's good news moving forward. All this leads to 2026. But 2024 is so much bigger, man. I mean, if you can get in these international tournaments, and I know you can't watch everything, you have so much on your plate. Let's continue in the summer. Don't want to spend too much time on the Olympics, but it is important. The women's tournament is still huge in the women's game, although the World Cup is starting to overshadow everything, which it should, just like it does in the men's game. USA has qualified for the men's and women's. Not many countries can say they have done that. The field is not complete yet. We're waiting for the South American teams. It's not a crazy, I mean, maybe we get Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay in there. But the European teams to make it, Israel, Ukraine, Romania, Georgia, you have the host France. This isn't a high-level competition with the stipulations of the under-23s. But we're excited because the U.S. are back and they want to make the most of it. But I just want to stress, when people try to sell you a bill of goods on the Olympics tournament, it doesn't carry the weight anywhere near what these others. IOC doesn't know how to run a soccer tournament very well. All these federations can, and that's what separates the Olympics. But enjoy it. I'll watch the USA games, maybe a couple other games. It's in France, so they're going to be played at the Parc des Princes and the Velodrome. So that will create a nice setting for these Parisian Olympics, which, coming off the last Olympics, which was in COVID, will be a breath of fresh air. And that's another thing about 2024 that's so special. Feels like COVID well behind us. Permanently, we hope. We know COVID's still around there, but obviously bringing the world to a screeching halt is behind us. All right, let's get into the big two this summer. The Copa America, the 48th edition, a bringing up together of two regions. It's a true championship of the Americas. CONCACAF gets in here, and by doing so, they get under the umbrella of the history of the Copa America, which goes back to 1916. This will start on June the 20th and go to July the 14th. It's in the United States, so we will get a dry run of the World Cup with the big venues, 60, 70, 80,000 seat stadiums, Jerry's World in Texas, SoFi Stadium, Levi's Stadium in Northern California, Glendale, Arizona, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. It'll be interesting to see how well attended some of these games are, because not all of them will be. It's going to be hard to fill out these games. It's a 16-team tournament, so it's going to be fast. You had the 2021 edition, which was also under the clouds of COVID, but famously won by Lionel Messi in Argentina over Brazil at the Maracanã in the final. It was chilling to watch that because, you know, we don't want to see those empty stadiums. It's like, it is so weird, and you hope we don't go through that again. So, still 2 CONCACAF teams need to qualify for that. We hope Canada makes it, which will bring the tournament up a bit. And we want this to go well because we want it to be a regular occurrence. And yes, this is a USA show, Soccer OG. I try to be global as much as I can. But we know this is a massive opportunity for the United States to show how far they have come. A massive responsibility for Greg Berhalter and these players to beat some teams that you regularly don't get a shot against. They will be in a group with Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. Look to beat Uruguay. They will play probably Brazil or Colombia in the quarterfinals if they advance out of their group. So there you go. You'll have a Uruguay game and then a Brazil-Colombia game. If you can win that round of 16 game, you have a proof of concept that the U.S. is deservedly amongst one of the highest ranked teams in the world and can be a threat at the World Cup that they will host. Because one thing we know about the U.S., when they play at home, and that's a lot, they do well. When they win the Nations League, when they win the Gold Cup, it is when they do it at home. So a huge benchmark moment here. It's going to be sensational. When we get closer, we're going to really feel it here in the U.S. Last time they did this was 2016, combining the confederations. And now you have a really amazing event at our doorstep. Let's wrap it up with the Euros. It is so big, it feels like a World Cup. The last Euros, that England-Italy final at Wembley Stadium felt bigger than many World Cup finals that we have had in recent memory. It is going to start on the 14th of June. It will go to the 14th of July. 24-team tournament. Everything is going to happen in Germany. I absolutely love that aspect. And I think we're going to hang on to what we're going to see here because certainly in UEFA and the World Cup, these single venue, not Germany small, but it's manageable. If everything is in there, a country of that size that can do everything, we don't get too many of it. And so many people have fond memories of the 2006 World Cup in Germany where you can get on a train and go from Berlin to Hamburg or wherever you want to go and watch games. So it's just such a stacked tournament. We know UEFA is the top dog in the world of football. 2024 is showing us that the gap is closing in some areas. But that last Euros, man, it was spectacular. And think of the pot one teams for the Euros. Germany, Portugal, France, Spain, Belgium, England. The Netherlands and Croatia are in pot three. It's crazy. You have a group of death, Spain, Croatia, Italy, Albania. Croatia's in pot three, and they've made the semifinals of the last World Cup and the final of the previous World Cup. That's how stacked Europe is. It's going to be so hard to watch everything, but man, it's all at your fingertips. So enjoy 2024. It's been great to be with you. We will have the videos coming out. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Always thrilling to be with you. Appreciate you guys checking out my stuff. Like and subscribe us here. We'll see you very soon.